Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected Hamas's proposal for a 4.5-month ceasefire in Gaza, calling them delusional.
Voters in Azerbaijan have been casting their ballots in a snap election, almost certain to give incumbent President Ilham Aliyev another 7-year term.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected Hamas's proposal for a 4.5-month ceasefire in Gaza, calling them delusional. Hamas wanted all hostages to be released and for Israel to withdraw its troops from the Strip, effectively leaving Hamas in power. A quarter of Gaza's residents are starving, and they hold on to the hope that a ceasefire will end their suffering.
بدنا أمان، بدنا سلام، بدنا نرتاح من الحياة، الواحد عيشة الكلاب الله يعزها.
هذه حياة مأساوية، نحن الكبار لا نتمسك بالحياة، لأننا الحياة مملوءة بالقصف والدمار والنزوح واللجوع والاغتيال والإبعاد، فلذلك نريد وقف إطلاق النار من أجل الحياة للأطفال.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem to discuss the proposal. He said a lot of work remains to be done to bridge the gap between Israel and Hamas on terms for a new ceasefire and hostage release deal.
Voters in Azerbaijan have been casting their ballots in a snap election, almost certain to give incumbent President Ilham Aliyev another 7-year term. It follows his government's swift reclaiming of the Karabakh region from ethnic Armenian separatists who controlled it for 3 decades. Analysts suggested that Aliyev moved the election to capitalise on his burst in popularity following September's blitz in Karabakh.
Now there's a historical chance about a peaceful transformation of the region, and also with an ultimate goal of signing the peace treaty between Armenia and Azerbaijan and normalizing the relations between two countries. As such, it could also have an effect for wider transformation of the region of the South Caucasus. But in the meantime, after the election, Azerbaijan enters a new stage of its social, economic and political development as such. And once again, this war is over, but was one of the priority for the Azerbaijani government and Azerbaijani people. Once Azerbaijan's territorial integrity has been ensured, now the new ambitions and new national dreams are emerging on our agenda. This national dream is about a peaceful development and further social economic development of Azerbaijan.
In Fuzuli, the Azerbaijani city near Karabakh that was controlled by Armenian forces until 2020, residents participated enthusiastically in the voting process.
Geleceğimiz yani avant olsun, sülh içinde yaşayaq. Ne bileyim, ölkəmiz gözəlləşsin yani. Bu baxımdan.
62-year-old Aliyev has been in power for more than 20 years. According to the exit poll, he is set to win with nearly 93% of the vote. Wives, mothers, sisters and grandmothers protesting on the streets of Kyiv against the government's controversial mobilization bill. President Zelensky wants to lower the conscription age from 27 to 25, end service exclusions for people with minor disabilities and require soldiers to spend 36 months in active service. After 2 years of full-scale war, these women are demanding frontline soldiers be relieved of their duties after 18 months. More troops, more rotations means less time on the battlefield.
Мій чоловік 2 роки вже знаходиться в зоні бойових дій. За цей весь час в нього було 30 днів відпустки і виводили їх тільки на ротацію на 1,5 місяця і все. Наших чоловіків мають замінити, вони мають мати час на відпочинок. І потім, якщо вони захочуть повернутися, то так. Ми за те, щоб війна продовжувалася, доки ми не вийдемо на кордони 91-го року.
У мене є син, йому 3 роки. Тобто більшість частини його життя його тато був відсутній. І це накладає якісь свої відтінки. Це не мітинги про зупинення якоїсь війни чи ні. Це про те, що хлопці виконують свій громадянський обов'язок. Як будь-якого громадянина нашої країни, хлопці повинні мати не тільки обов'язки, а й права.
Я бабушка військового. Хлопці з першого дня воюють, їх немає заміни. Дуже багато загиблих, хлопці виснажені. І треба їм, щоб або чіткі терміни служби мобілізації, короткі терміни. Буде більше бажаючих на мобілізацію. Будуть знати, що вони зможуть повернутися. Що це не до кінця війни. Хто виживе, той повернеться.
If more volunteers join the fight, conscripts might be allowed home.
The Ukrainian Army Command says it needs 500,000 new recruits to reinforce troops, replace losses and give some relief to those who've been on the front for 2 years. And these women, as many families in Ukraine, believe that reducing active service time can only boost morale and increase chances of victory. I'm Valerie Goria in Kyiv for Euronews.
Talks to form a far-right-led government in the Netherlands have come to a premature end for now, leaving the country in limbo as attempts to build a political coalition around anti-Islam lawmaker Geert Wilder's stall. Centrist party NSC ended talks last night over what it called, quote, worrisome government finances. Wilder's Party for Freedom, or PVV, swept to victory in the country's November parliamentary election on campaign pledges that included slashing immigration.
A landslide hit Nageti village in Georgia's eastern Imereti region overnight, trapping 4 houses. The disaster resulted in at least 5 casualties, according to the Georgian public broadcaster. Search and rescue operations are continuing, with people remaining unaccounted for and presumed missing. The head of the Emergency Situations Management Service is at the disaster site, coordinating search and rescue. Over 200 firefighter rescuers, representatives of MIA and local authorities.
Drought and high production costs are suffocating the Spanish countryside. After a disastrous season, farmers are now protesting against the new European requirements of the Common Agricultural Policy.
Venimos de un 2023 con la campaña de cereal más cara de producir de la historia y luego con unas lluvias pues de las más bajas también en un montón de años atrás, en este 2023. Eso pues ha generado la tormenta perfecta, que queremos decir que ya no podemos más.
New bureaucratic obstacles and requirements for environmental and animal protection have made it more complicated and expensive to qualify for European aid.
Por supuesto, nosotros queremos producir sin hacer daño al planeta, pero claro, ya un fundamentalismo medioambiental extremo que lo único que protejas al planeta y a nosotros nos desproteja totalmente, pues claro, no es sostenible en el tiempo.
While EU requirements increase the cost of European products, farmers demand that products from third world countries meet the same environmental and food safety requirements. They're also critical of trade agreements with Morocco and the future deal with Mercosur. Transporters will join the protests of farmers, with their sights set on the entry ports of non-EU goods, as planned by protesters in Portugal and Italy.
El cáncer nuestro está en los puertos de España.
Los agricultores, ganaderos y transportistas aseguran que no dejarán sus movilizaciones y los paros hasta que Bruselas escuche sus demandas, con la Agenda 2030 en el foco de la batalla. Estas protestas que recorren Europa son la muestra del divorcio entre la Europa urbana y la Europa rural, que vive atrapada entre las consecuencias del cambio climático y las políticas necesarias para atajarlo, que se han tomado a su juicio sin tomarlos en cuenta. Una cuestión que sin duda jugará un papel determinante en las próximas elecciones europeas. En Madrid, Jaime Velázquez, Euronews.
The 2015 Paris attacker Salah Abdeslam has been transferred from his Belgian cell and sent back to France, his lawyer said on Wednesday. Abdeslam is the only surviving member of the Islamic State group cell that killed 130 people in the French capital in November 2015. The worst terror attack in the country's history. Found guilty in Belgium last year of planning subsequent 2016 attacks in Brussels, his transfer back to continue serving out his French prison sentence has been blocked by an appeals court on human rights grounds.
Germany's Lufthansa airline has cancelled hundreds of flights after ground staff went on strike for a day at 5 airports across the country. The Verdi Union called for the action at Lufthansa's two main hubs, Frankfurt and Munich, as well as Berlin, Düsseldorf and Hamburg.
Die Beschäftigten bei der Lufthansa heute zeigen, dass das so nicht funktioniert, wenn ein Arbeitgeber eine komplette Verweigerungshaltung am Verhandlungstisch signalisiert. Und deswegen braucht es diesen Streik, um den Arbeitgeber bewegt zu bekommen.
Bedauere ich die Eskalation der Verdi, diese Eskalation, die aus meiner Sicht nicht nötig gewesen wäre. Wir sind auch bereit, die Gehälter zu erhöhen und haben auch unseres Erachtens ein gutes Angebot gemacht mit Steigerung von Gehalt und Bestandteilen von 13% über die nächsten 3 Jahre.
In Frankfurt, Munich and Düsseldorf, between 80 and 90% of all flights weren't carried out. Some 100,000 passengers have been affected and need to change their travel plans.
Dass man für seine Rechte einsteht, ist in Ordnung, aber es sind halt oft dann die normalen Leute betroffen, die vielleicht auch viele Monate auf einen Flug gespart haben, der dann nicht stattfinden kann.
Lufthansa said tickets could be rebooked free of charge and tickets for German domestic flights could be converted into rail vouchers. Sweden is to close its investigation into the explosions of the underwater Nord Stream gas pipelines. Its investigation was only one of 3, with Denmark and Germany also examining the blasts. Officials in the Nordic nations say Sweden doesn't have the jurisdiction to investigate. The explosions happened as Europe attempted to wean itself off Russian energy sources. More than 16 months after the sabotage, the source of the attack remains a major international mystery, with German media blaming a pro-Ukraine group and Russia accusing the US of staging the explosions.